Legacy of a Lost Colony. Chapter 1, Elysia's Ember. The vastness of space, an inky canvas dotted with the brilliance of countless stars, bore silent witness to the last gasps of a dying world. Earth, once a vibrant blue jewel, now a smoldering husk, expelled a lone ship into the abyss. The vessel, a testament to human resilience, carried within it the last vestiges of hope, an infant cradled in a stasis pod, a tiny ember against the cosmic chill. The ship's trajectory, a desperate gamble, led it to Elysia, a planet shrouded in a nebula's embrace. As it pierced the atmosphere, a trail of fire streaked across the alien sky, illuminating a landscape unlike any seen before. Bioluminescent flora painted the world in a mesmerizing dance of light, a symphony of pulsating colors that pulsed with an ethereal energy. The ship's crash landing shattered the tranquil night, sending shockwaves through the luminescent foliage. From the heart of the wreckage, a cry pierced the air. The infant's wail, a fragile echo of life amidst the desolation. Drawn by the sound, a group of beings emerged from the glowing undergrowth. They moved with a grace that defied gravity, their slender forms adorned with intricate patterns of bioluminescent markings. These were the Seren, a species whose existence was as harmonious as the planet they called home. The Seren elder, Lumi, knelt beside the wreckage, her senses attuned to the infant's distress. With gentle hands, she retrieved the child from the shattered pod, cradling it close to her chest. The infant, its eyes wide with wonder, reached out a tiny hand, tracing the glowing patterns on Lumi's skin. "Such a fragile creature," Lumi murmured, her voice a melodic hum that resonated with warmth and compassion. Far from home, lost and alone. The other Seren gathered around, their telepathic minds intertwining in a chorus of concern and curiosity. "A human," one of them, Kale, observed, his voice tinged with awe. "A species thought to be on the brink of extinction." Lumi nodded, her gaze fixed on the infant's face. "But this one, there's something different about her." The elders retreated to their sacred grove, a sanctuary of towering, luminescent trees whose roots delved deep into Elysia's core. As the soft glow of the Heartwood bathed them in its ethereal light, they engaged in a telepathic conversation, their minds communing in a symphony of thoughts and emotions. "The prophecy speaks of a Starborn," Lumi began, her voice echoing through the grove. "A being of extraordinary power, destined to shape the fate of Elysia." Kale tilted his head, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "Could this child be the one the prophecy foretold?" "The timing of her arrival is auspicious," another elder, Lyra, chimed in. "But her human origins raise questions. Are we to entrust our fate to a child of a species known for its self-destructive tendencies?" Lumi gazed up at the canopy of glowing leaves, her mind reaching out to the ancient wisdom of the Heartwood. "The prophecy does not discriminate based on species," she replied. "It speaks of a soul touched by the stars, a being with the potential to unite or divide." A hush fell over the grove as the elders pondered the weight of Lumi's words. The fate of Elysia, it seemed, rested in the tiny hands of a human child, a child who was both an ember of hope and a spark of uncertainty. Chapter 2. Whispers of the Heartwood. Years turned into seasons on Elysia, each marked by a change in the symphony of light that bathed the land. Under the watchful eyes of Lumi and Kale, Elara thrived. The Seren language, a melody of clicks and whistles, flowed from her lips as effortlessly as her native tongue. She learned to weave intricate tapestries with threads spun from moonlit spider silk, a tradition as old as the Seren themselves. But most importantly, she discovered the gift of their telepathic communion. Thoughts and emotions flowed between Elara and her Seren family like the gentle currents of a bioluminescent stream. She learned to sense their joy, their sorrow, their fears, and their hopes. Yet, amidst this symphony of shared consciousness, Elara felt a discordant note, a whisper of something different within her. This whisper grew stronger whenever she ventured into the Heartwood, the sacred grove where the most ancient of the Seren trees stood sentinel. These trees pulsed with an energy that resonated deep within Elara, awakening a warmth that spread through her limbs like sunshine. She would often sit at the base of the Heartwood, her back against the rough bark, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns of glowing moss. "What do you feel, little one?" Lumi asked one evening, her voice a gentle caress in Elara's mind. Elara closed her eyes, her senses reaching out to the Heartwood's pulse. "A song," she replied, her words tinged with awe. "A song of life, of growth, of belonging." Lumi smiled, a warmth spreading through her own being. "The Heartwood sings to those who listen, Elara. It speaks of a connection that runs deeper than blood, a bond forged in the light of shared experience." As Elara grew, so too did her connection to the Heartwood. She learned to communicate with the trees, to sense their ancient wisdom, and to draw upon their energy to heal minor wounds and soothe troubled minds. The Seren elders marveled at her abilities, seeing in her a potential far greater than any they had witnessed before. But Elysia's tranquility was not to last. One day, the serenity of the Heartwood was shattered by the arrival of strange beings. Their ships, sleek and metallic, descended from the sky, casting ominous shadows on the luminescent landscape. These were the Kriegs, a race known throughout the galaxy for their insatiable hunger for resources and their disdain for those they deemed inferior. Elara watched from the edge of the Heartwood as the Kriegs disembarked, their movements sharp and aggressive, their eyes scanning the surroundings with cold calculation. A shiver ran down her spine, a primal fear that whispered of danger and destruction. "Who are they?" Elara asked, her mind reaching out to Lumi. "The Kriegs," Lumi replied, her voice tinged with worry. "A race of conquerors, driven by greed and a thirst for power. Their arrival does not bode well for Elysia." Elara's heart pounded in her chest as she watched the Kriegs advance. A sense of unease settled over her, a premonition of impending darkness that threatened to extinguish Elysia's radiant glow. Chapter 3: Shadows in the Glow. A tremor rippled through the Heartwood, not from the ground, but from the air itself. A swarm of Krieg ships blotted out the star-strewn sky, their hulls glinting with a cold, metallic sheen. The Seren watched in horrified silence as landing pods descended, disgorging armored figures onto the luminescent moss. Leading the Kriegs was a hulking figure clad in black, his eyes burning with a fierce, predatory light. "This planet is ours now," his voice boomed, amplified by his helmet. "Your submission will be rewarded. Resistance is futile." The Seren elders exchanged worried glances. Lumi stepped forward, her voice a beacon of calm amidst the rising panic. "We are a peaceful people," she declared. "We seek only harmony with the land and all who dwell upon it." The Krieg warlord scoffed. "Harmony? Such sentimentality is a weakness. You will learn to obey, or you will be crushed." A wave of fear rippled through the Seren, but Elara felt a different emotion stirring within her: anger. A surge of defiance rose up, fueled by the love she held for her Seren family and the land they called home. As the Kriegs advanced, Elara stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the warlord. A tingling sensation spread through her body, and the air around her crackled with energy. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from her, a radiant wave that washed over the Kriegs, forcing them to shield their eyes. The warlord staggered back, his voice laced with surprise and anger. "What is this sorcery?" Elara stood her ground, the light intensifying with each surge of defiance. The Kriegs stumbled, their weapons clattering to the ground. The warlord, blinded and disoriented, bellowed a retreat. With a final surge of power, Elara unleashed a shockwave that sent the remaining Kriegs fleeing back to their ships. The light faded, leaving Elara trembling but exhilarated. A chorus of gasps and cheers erupted from the Seren, their faces etched with awe and gratitude. But as the initial elation subsided, a somber realization settled over the Seren elders. Lumi approached Elara, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. "Elara," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "there is something you must know. You are not one of us." Elara's heart sank. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lumi took Elara's hand, leading her to the ancient Heartwood tree. "You are a human," she revealed, her words echoing through the luminescent grove. "The last of your kind, a survivor of a lost colony." Elara stared at Lumi, her mind reeling. A human? A survivor? The fragments of her past, the half-remembered dreams of a blue planet and unfamiliar faces, suddenly clicked into place. A wave of confusion and anger washed over her. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her voice shaking with emotion. Lumi looked at Elara with compassion. "We wanted to protect you, to give you a chance to grow and flourish without the burden of your past. But now your destiny is intertwined with ours. You are the Starborn, the one who will decide the fate of Elysia." Elara gazed up at the Heartwood, its glow now tinged with a bittersweet hue. She felt torn between the Seren, the family she had always known, and the human heritage that now called to her like a distant echo. The weight of her newfound identity pressed down on her, a heavy burden that threatened to crush her spirit. Chapter 4. The Starborn's Awakening. The days following the Krieg attack were a whirlwind of emotions for Elara. The revelation of her human heritage had shaken her to her core, yet the outpouring of love and support from her Seren family provided a much-needed anchor. As she wandered through the Heartwood, the glowing tendrils of the ancient trees reached out to her, offering solace and reassurance. One evening, as Elara sat beneath the sprawling branches of the mother tree, a familiar voice echoed in her mind. "Elara," Lumi said, her tone laced with warmth and encouragement, "it is time for you to embrace your full potential." Elara looked up, her eyes filled with a newfound determination. "I'm ready," she replied, her voice a blend of human and Seren inflections. And so began Elara's training. Under Lumi's guidance, she honed her telepathic abilities, learning to sense the emotions of others with greater clarity and to project her own thoughts with unwavering focus. She practiced manipulating the ambient energy of the Heartwood, weaving it into shields of light and bolts of pure force. But Lumi was not Elara's only teacher. The surviving human soldiers, hardened by their fight for survival, shared their knowledge of combat and strategy. Elara learned to wield a vibroblade with deadly precision, her movements a blend of Seren grace and human agility. She studied the Krieg's technology, their tactics, and their weaknesses, absorbing information like a sponge. As the weeks turned into months, Elara's confidence grew. She led small bands of Seren and human warriors in daring raids against Krieg outposts, utilizing her telepathic abilities to anticipate enemy movements and coordinate attacks with uncanny precision. The Krieg soon learned to fear the Starborn, their whispers of her name tinged with both dread and awe. The Krieg warlord, Vax, seethed with frustration. His initial arrogance had given way to a simmering rage. The Starborn had become an obstacle to his conquest, a symbol of defiance that threatened to ignite a full-scale rebellion. "Find her," Vax snarled, his voice echoing through the Krieg command center. "Bring me the Starborn, and I will reward you handsomely. Fail, and you will face my wrath." His underlings scattered, their scanners scouring Elysia for any trace of Elara. But Elara was always one step ahead, her connection to the Heartwood giving her an intuitive sense of the land and its hidden paths. Elara's victories, though small, were significant. They boosted morale among the resistance, proving that the Kriegs were not invincible. But Elara knew that the war was far from over. The Kriegs were relentless, their numbers vast, their technology formidable. The fate of Elysia hung in the balance, and Elara, the human Starborn, was at the center of it all. Chapter 5. Convergence at the Heartwood. The soft glow of Elysia's bioluminescent flora was dimmed by the harsh glare of Krieg's searchlights. The warlord, Vax, had grown desperate, his patience worn thin by Elara's elusive tactics. News of the Starborn's victories had spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope in the hearts of the oppressed. It was time for a final stand, and Elara stood atop a moss-covered hill overlooking the Heartwood. The ancient trees pulsed with an energy that mirrored her own, their luminescent leaves shimmering like 1,000 tiny stars. Beside her stood Lumi and Kale, their faces etched with a mix of determination and worry. Behind them, a diverse army had assembled, Seren warriors with their shimmering spears, human survivors wielding salvaged weapons, and even the bioluminescent creatures of Elysia drawn to Elara's light. "Today we fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of Elysia." Elara's voice, amplified by her Seren abilities, echoed across the battlefield. "We fight for harmony, for unity, for the right to live in peace." A cheer erupted from the assembled forces, a wave of sound that reverberated through the Heartwood. Elara closed her eyes, drawing upon the energy of the ancient trees. A surge of power coursed through her veins, filling her with a sense of unwavering resolve. The Kriegs advanced, their armor gleaming under the artificial light of their ships. Vax led the charge, his eyes locked on Elara, a burning hatred in their depths. The clash of weapons filled the air as the two armies met. Elara moved with the grace of a dancer, her vibroblade a blur of motion as she deflected Krieg blaster fire. She used her telepathic abilities to coordinate her allies, directing them with whispers of encouragement and tactical guidance. As the battle raged, Elara found herself face to face with Vax. The warlord lunged at her, his blade aimed at her heart. Elara parried the blow, their blades sparking as they locked in a deadly dance. "You cannot win, Starborn," Vax snarled, his voice a guttural growl. "Your defiance is pointless." Elara met his gaze, her eyes blazing with a fire that Vax had never encountered before. "You underestimate the power of unity," she retorted. "We are not alone. We are Elysia." With a burst of speed, Elara disarmed Vax, her blade pressed against his throat. The warlord's eyes widened in disbelief as he felt her telepathic probe, delving into the darkness of his soul. Elara saw the pain, the fear, the twisted ambition that had driven Vax to this point. In that moment, she understood that even the most ruthless of beings were not beyond redemption. But she also knew that his reign of terror had to end. With a surge of power, Elara unleashed a wave of pure light, not to harm, but to heal. Vax screamed as the light washed over him, his armor melting away, revealing a frail, broken figure. The battle turned as the Kriegs, seeing their leader defeated, lost their will to fight. They surrendered en masse, their weapons falling silent. The cheers of the victorious echoed through the Heartwood, a symphony of hope and liberation. As the last Krieg ship retreated into the vastness of space, Elara stood amidst the celebrating crowd. Her heart swelled with pride and gratitude for the unity that had saved Elysia. She had embraced her human heritage, not as a burden, but as a source of strength. The Starborn had awakened, not as a destroyer, but as a beacon of hope, illuminating a path towards a brighter future. Chapter 6, A Tapestry of Light. The war had left its mark on Elysia. The once vibrant landscape bore scars of destruction, a stark reminder of the Krieg invasion. Yet amidst the wreckage, a new energy pulsed, a sense of hope and renewal. Elara stood at the heart of the Heartwood, the ancient trees surrounding her like wise guardians. Their luminescence seemed brighter now, as if invigorated by the newfound unity among the inhabitants of Elysia. She closed her eyes, feeling the gentle touch of the leaves against her skin, the whisper of the wind through the branches. Elara, a voice echoed in her mind, warm and familiar. It was Kale, his thoughts tinged with both admiration and concern. "The weight you carry is heavy, yet you bear it with grace." Elara opened her eyes, a soft smile gracing her lips. "It is not a burden, Kale," she replied, her voice a blend of human and Seren inflections. "It is a responsibility, a privilege. I am the bridge between two worlds, a symbol of what we can achieve together." And so Elara set to work, weaving together the threads of a new society. She gathered the remaining human survivors, their faces etched with the hardships they had endured, and the Seren elders, their wisdom tempered by the trials of war. Together they formed a council, a tapestry of diverse minds and perspectives. The rebuilding process was slow and arduous. The Kriegs had left behind a trail of ecological damage, disrupting the delicate balance of Elysia's bioluminescent ecosystems. But Elara, with her unique connection to the Heartwood, guided the restoration efforts, using her powers to nurture the land and accelerate its healing. As the scars of war began to fade, the bond between humans and Seren deepened. Elara's example inspired a new generation, children who grew up seeing not differences, but the beauty of diversity. Human children learned to communicate telepathically, while Seren children embraced the human traditions of storytelling and music. The Heartwood became a symbol of unity, a place where both species gathered to celebrate their shared heritage. Festivals of light filled the night sky with dazzling displays of bioluminescence, while communal feasts brought together families from all corners of Elysia. Elara, the human Starborn, was at the heart of it all. She taught the humans to respect the delicate balance of Elysia's ecosystem and she reminded the Seren of the importance of adaptability and resilience. She was not just a leader, but a friend, a mentor, and a source of inspiration. Years turned into decades, and Elysia flourished under Elara's guidance. The human colony, once a remnant of a dying world, had found a new home, a place where they could thrive alongside a species vastly different from their own. As Elara sat beneath the mother tree, watching the children of humans and Seren play together, she felt a sense of profound peace. The echoes of Earth's destruction had faded, replaced by the harmonious symphony of life on Elysia. The Starborn had fulfilled her destiny, not as a warrior, but as a healer, a unifier, a weaver of light. The legacy of a lost colony had blossomed into a vibrant tapestry, a testament to the enduring power of hope, unity, and the boundless potential of the human spirit.